place called Calvary stood 3 old wood crosses for a Savior and 2 thieves. We all know the reason the 2 men had to die, but the man in the middle was there for you and I. And the man in the middle was not an ordinary man. He could make the blind to see with one touch of his hand and the sound of his voice brought Lazarus back to life. And the man in the middle was there for you and I. All the wonders of heaven have to bow at his command. And all the things that lie beneath him were made by his 2 hands. Somewhere in the nursery, a newborn baby cries, 'cause the man in the middle was the giver of life. And the man in the middle was not an ordinary man. He could make the blind to see with one touch of his hand and the sound of his voice brought Lazarus back to life. And the man in the middle was there for you and I. And the man in the middle was there for you and I. We're singing about. There's a few that won't bend. Many compromise, but that won't change our minds. We're gonna win. Though mighty men fall, throw the truth in. There are still overcomers, won't give up the crown. Hold the truth in their hand. Somebody's gonna stand. Somebody's gonna stand. Somebody's gonna fight.
Thank you all so much for inviting me to come to speak with you this morning. It's always a privilege to share with people about what God is doing in other parts of the world. So I always want to start out with talking a little bit about my background. Whenever I grew up in Stony Point Baptist Church, or going to Stony Point Baptist Church, and there I learned about missions through a group called Girls in Action, or GAs. I learned about missionaries and all the different things that they did and all the places that they got to go, and I thought it was so interesting. But I never thought that I would be a missionary, because I thought missionaries were perfect. Because look at all the things they did, and they were following what God wanted them to do. But eventually I figured out that no one is perfect, not even missionaries. And so when I was in college, I felt like that God was calling me to be a missionary and calling me to study public health. I was on the road to go to pharmacy school, or to try to get in pharmacy school, but I felt that God was calling me to do something else, and that was to get my master's in public health and try to help people who do not have as much health access as we have, like clean water and sanitation and things like that. That was when I was a junior in college, and then when a couple days after I graduated, I went with another group of students from Campbellsville on my first mission trip. Someone told me about it, and I thought, okay, well, I want to see if this is really what God is wanting me to do. So I went on a mission trip with those students, and we went to Niger. That is the country that I live in now. It's spelled Niger. In English, it's pronounced Niger, but in French, it's pronounced Niger. French is the language that is spoken there. And so we evangelized in the villages outside of the main city, and then we also did some health clinics. And so through that trip, I really felt like, okay, this is, I want to keep going in this path to see if this is indeed, I felt like, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to keep doing things like this. And so the next year, I lived in Niger for 4.5 months with a program with the International Mission Board called the Hands-On Program. And on that first trip, it was in 2013, and then I lived there in 2014. But in 2013, when we were evangelizing in the villages, of course we had to have translators, because the people in Niger don't speak English. They speak French, and then they speak some other local languages. And so one of our translators is the person that I'm married to now. I met him, and his other 2 sisters and his brother-in-law were all our translators. So I just became friends with them, and then just got to know them, and then our relationship developed out of that. So that was in 2013 and 14, and then I went back to Niger several times in between then and when I moved there last year. And so there was a great deal of time in between whenever I felt that God called me, and then the time that I actually went there permanently. Some of that time was me, I was a little bit confused. I was thinking maybe this wasn't what God called me to do. I was kind of running from God because of just different things that were happening in my life. But in 2021, I just couldn't really take it anymore. And so I decided that this is what God wants me to do. I know it because I didn't have peace. And so I didn't want to live that way anymore. So I left behind what I was doing, and I went toward God, toward what He had called me to do. And so I moved to Niger in July of last year, and we got married in July, and then so I have just returned. I returned around the end of May to spend the summer with my family and to share with people like you about what's going on in Niger. So the picture on the board is a picture of Niger. Niger is in mostly in the desert. And so there is, I don't know if you all can see this, but this is a outline of the, should I move it up there? Okay. Of the country of Africa. So if you think of a big map, usually Africa is kind of in the middle. You have like North and South America on the left, and then on the right you have Asia, Australia, Europe on the top. So Africa consists of many different countries. And so you can see there at the top of my paper there is the Sahara Desert. And so most of Niger is in the desert. So you can see there on the picture that there's lots of sand, there's a few trees, not a lot of grass. So that's kind of what Niger would look like. And then I wanted to tell you a little bit of background about my husband. His name is Musa. He is from Niger. Like I said, we met there. He became a Christian when he was a young child. His mother and sister were practicing Muslims, and his sister was kind of telling me a little bit of her testimony a couple months ago. But she was, no one could really tell her that she was going to heaven, because in Islam you try to do different things, different good things to try to get you into heaven. And so she needed somebody to help her to know that she had assurance of going to heaven. And so there was some missionaries who came to their house from Nigeria. Nigeria is just south of Niger. And they shared with them about Jesus. And she was like, this, and they shared with how, you know, if you believe in Jesus, you can go to heaven, you have the Holy Spirit, that's your assurance of going to heaven. And she was like, yes, this is what I want. So their family became Christians after that, their whole family. He has 4 sisters and 1 brother. So that's how he became a Christian. And he has his master's in law. He works with one mission organization doing their legal paperwork. But he also has a big ministry with college students and high school students. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So I wanted to share a little bit about what is Niger like. I live in the capital city of Niger, which is called Niamey. The population of the whole country is 25 million. So that's about 6 Kentuckys. So Kentucky is like 4.5 million. So that's about 6 Kentuckys. And then I live in the capital city, which is Niamey. And the population there is 1.4 million. That is about the size of San Diego, California. So there's lots of people there, and people are usually out talking with each other, just fellowshipping with each other, doing things outside. People don't really stay inside their homes very much because it's hot, for one reason, and 2, it's just their culture. They want to be around each other. And so some normal things that you would see in Niamey in the city are, like I said, lots of people. And then also you'll see people, men praying. So the men can pray outside at the mosque, but the women pray inside. The country is 98% Muslim. So just think, 25 million people, and 98% of them are Muslim. So that leaves very few Christians, Catholics, and also animists. Some people are animists on the inside, but Muslim on the outside. Animist means that you believe in witchcraft. And so they might still do their like witchcraft beliefs, and then also, but look like a Muslim. So that means that they participate in like the witchcraft and the spells and things like that. And the reason that they believe in that is because it's been in their culture for thousands of years. And then, like I said, there are some Christians and Catholics as well. But like I said, you'll see several like men lined up. They pray 5 times a day outside of the mosque, and they'll be like lined up in like a really strategic line. And then you'll see them standing and saying a prayer, and then they'll bow and say a prayer. They don't say it out loud. And then they'll get down on the floor, and then they do that thing a couple of times. And then they do it in the morning, around lunchtime, in the afternoon, and 2 times at night. And so that's really important in their religion to have credit with God, kind of, is what it's kind of what it seems like. And then the women, you'll see lots of times women cooking, taking care of children, but also in the city, women also have like normal jobs, like similar to the jobs that we would have here. And then there's also like normal looking houses. There's houses that are made out of mud brick, and then there's houses that are like huts. There are some people who live in our neighborhood, kind of outside of our house, who live in huts. So not everyone is as fortunate as some other people. And I have some pictures to show you as well of some of that. So here's some of the homes. On the left is kind of like a mud brick top home, and then on the right is the community that's around our church. So that's kind of like what the homes would look like. And then this is our house. We're very blessed to have a nice house, and we're very thankful that God provided that for us. And then you can see also the houses have walls around them. That's just normal in these countries. So you can see the gate there for the car, and then there's another door to go inside of the compound. This is the inside of our house. Some people want to know, do you have electricity? Do you have TV? Yes, we do. So I thought I'd throw in a picture of what our house looks like. So I was able to buy a lot of our furniture from an American couple who was leaving. And so I was really thankful for all of that and how God provided that for us as well. And then this is my husband. On the left is when we got married, and then on the right was at Christmas. And then I was also so thankful that my mom and sister were able to come to Niger for our wedding last July, so I had to include a picture. And then this is my family-in-law. Like I said, my husband has 4 sisters and 1 brother, and their 4 husbands are pictured there as well. So I'm really thankful for a large Christian family who's really supportive and just loving, especially being in a country where I don't have my other family. And then this is a picture of several of our church family. The church is kind of smaller, maybe about 30 or 40 people, and I would say half of them are children. So we're very thankful to have a church, and we evangelize in that community, and we've seen some people start coming to our church as well. And here's just some more pictures of the kids on the left, and then one of the men on the right. Okay, so I also wanted to talk a little bit about what people wear there. So in a Muslim country, normally it's just very modest clothing. Women wear dresses or skirts to their ankles, and then if they're Muslim, then they also wear like a hijab. So that's the headdress that you can only see their face. And then it'll go down. Sometimes people wear a hijab that goes all the way to their ankles. So then you have the dress, and then you have the hijab on top of it. So I don't understand how they don't burn up, because it's really hot. But that is just what they wear. So you can see there, the girl on the right side of me in the picture, she's a Christian, that's why she doesn't have that. But the two girls on the left side of me, they're Muslim, and so that's kind of what women, what it looks like there, what women wear there. And then sometimes, depending on the type of Muslim they are, sometimes they'll have something here and something here. So then you can only see their eyes. So we see that sometimes as well. And then the picture on the right is a man selling his fruit. So lots of times you'll have people just lined up on the side of the road selling their items, and then it's kind of like a drive-through. You can just pull up, tell them what you want, and then they put it in your car, like an African drive-through. So it's really handy to do that. But the people are there trying to make their livelihood to sell their items so that they can feed their families. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the animals there. I have a list over here, but I'll read it off for you. So Niger is in the desert, so it's not like those cool African countries that have like lions and elephants and monkeys. No, we have lizards. So there are lizards everywhere, kind of like the same abundance as squirrels here. They're on the house, they're on the walls, not in the house, on the house, sorry, outside the house. They're running around in the yard, they're just everywhere. So they like to make their home in Niger. And then also, people have a lot of just the domestic animals like goats, sheep, cows, chickens. And then there is a river that runs through Niger called the Niger River. And the Niger River has hippos. So sometimes you might see a hippo when you're going over the bridge. There's 3 bridges that go to the other side of the city. And then there are camels, which are my favorite. I'd love to have a pet camel, but that's a definite no. I've already asked. And then there are giraffes too, like outside of the city in a giraffe park. The languages, the people groups in Niger, there are many people groups that live in Africa, but some of the main people groups that live in Niger are the Hausa people, the Songha people, the Zarma people, the Tuareg people, and the Fulani people. My husband is a Songha person. So those people groups all speak a different language. The Hausa people speak Hausa, the Songha and Zarma people speak Zarma, the Tuareg people speak Tamashek, and the Fulani people speak Fulfulde. So you can imagine how confusing that could be. But thankfully, there's a national language, French. So a lot of people understand French. If they don't, a lot of people understand Zarma and Hausa. So I'm currently learning French and Zarma. So pray for me. And then the different kinds of foods that they have there, that they make a lot there, are rice, millet, sugar cane, mango. There are lots of mango trees. Watermelon and sorghum. Those are the things that are made there, but they make a lot of different dishes. So you can see here on the pictures that we have some cows. They have the horns, which I think are interesting, and then you can see our lovely lizards on the right. And this is a picture of the Niger River. It's not very deep, but it is kind of wide, and they get a lot of fish from the river as well. This is a picture of the market. So they have open air markets where you can buy a lot of the items that you need. They also have different stores that I would probably compare to a dollar store. They're called Alimentation, and they sell a lot of like packaged things that you might find that might be more like things that you would want as well, other than the natural foods that you find in the market. Speaking of fish, I have had lots of encounters with cleaning and cooking fish, the whole fish. So lots of people Well, lots of people love fish, and they don't waste any parts of the food. So I don't eat the head, but my husband likes to eat any part of the fish. I'll eat like the middle or the tail. But here, I just wanted to share with you a wonderful picture of the fish. And then on the right is a plate that is like finished. So you have rice on the bottom, and then you have a sauce. The sauce is made of vegetables, potatoes, and then they put like a tomato paste, or they might put mayonnaise or other different things to try to make it a little bit saucy, and then they put the meat with that as well. So on the right is a more appetizing picture of fish. Okay. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the climate. So there is a hot season, which was March through May. So I kind of left toward the end of the hot season. I was quite hot in the month of May. It's about 110 degrees during the day, and it really doesn't cool down that much at night. So it was getting pretty toasty. And right now it's the rainy season. So it's June, July, August, September. The farmers rely on the rainy season for their crops to grow. So they're planting their crops now and relying on the rain to grow their crops. And then after that, they will harvest their crops and hope that what they got will last them the whole year. If not, then they may not have something to eat, or if they don't have the money for it. And then after that would be the cold season, November, December, January, part of February. The lowest temperature that it gets or got while I was there was about 65 degrees, and then maybe the high would be 85 degrees. And then they have, but it's cold for them. They have their jackets and their hats and, they blankets. So it's cold for them. So what are some things that we do? Well, one really good thing to do in a Muslim culture is to visit people, as well as African culture. So we visit people. We try to make relationships with people, and then visit them and try to use that avenue to share with them about Jesus. Sometimes it's really difficult for a Muslim person to come to know Jesus because they already believe in something else. So just imagine like if someone came to you and was like, oh, you should believe in Islam. And I was like, no, I already believe in this. So anyway, but the difference between Islam and Jesus is that, the gospel has truth and is the only truth.
Yes.
So it's important to try to share that truth with people, and sometimes you have to do that several times in order for them to understand a little bit more about the Bible. It's better to share smaller things with them, like stories. Sometimes people will have questions because they already have a holy book, the Quran. So they often have questions about the Bible, like where do you find the story or things like that. So if they want to know more, then they want to read the Bible. So it's good to just try to gently share with them multiple times. And so here's a picture of us visiting someone. Anytime somebody has a baby, I'm like, ooh, I want to hold it. So here we are holding their children. And then also it's customary to visit people who have just had babies. So the picture on the left is my mother-in-law's neighbor. She had a baby, so normally you visit them, tell them barka, which is congratulations, and give them soap or clothes or something like that. And then on the right is a Christian chabe. A chabe is a baby naming ceremony. So normally after the baby is born, a month or two, whenever the mother feels better, they will have this big party, and everyone will come. You'll announce the name of the baby, and then you'll have food. So those things are kind of fun too. And then, so not only do we visit people, but people come and visit us. So in our neighborhood, we have, we live kind of outside of the city, but we do have neighbors. And so on the left is a girl who is my neighbor. She's 18, her name is Mariam. And she, after I moved there, she just wanted to come over and like help me clean and do different things. So we go to the market together. And so she's a Muslim, but God has put that relationship in my life so that I can try to share with her about Jesus. So I'm really thankful that God sent her to me.
Amen.
And then on the right is several kids from the neighborhood. I really have a heart for the kids. I'm so glad that they want to come over to our house. Also, I'm like the only white person in our neighborhood. So some people just come over to say hi or want to see the white person. So just the way that the differences in me open doors for me to try to share with people about Jesus as well. So so I just try to take those opportunities as well. So here they are, and they're playing Uno, having a good time. And we love whenever they come over just because Christian families and Muslim families are very different. And so those differences can be seen with my husband and my relationship with each other. And so we try to use that as well to share with them about God's love. How they can see God's love between us, and so that they can kind of experience that as well, to see how God loves them.
Amen. Praise God.
And then here's some more kids that were coming over. They were putting together a puzzle. I'm slowly collecting games to do for them to do. And then also at Christmas we had a party or a feast, and we invited over all of our neighbors to share with them about Christmas. So on the left, Mariam is there kind of cleaning the rice, and on the right is Musa's oldest sister. She's inside helping me cook more food. So we wanted them to come over and to have a meal, and then Musa shared with them in Zarma, their heart language, about Jesus, about how he came to the earth as a baby, grew up, and what he did, and how he died for them on the cross and rose again. So just a clear gospel presentation in their language. And so I was just so thankful that we were able to host that at our house. There was probably about 60 people there. And so we have all the food there on the left, and on the right are some of the kids in our neighborhood. They are so cute, and they aren't judgmental whenever I practice my language with them. Actually, people aren't really judgmental, but I don't feel as bad whenever I mess up, whenever I talk to them. So I like practicing my language with them. This is a picture of inside the church, another event that we had at Easter. So the kids are there on the left singing songs, and then we invite people to come and eat to try to help them to know about Easter and how that's the celebration of Jesus' resurrection.
Praise God. Amen.
And then we also have people come over to our house from my husband's ministry. So his ministry is, the name of it is called GBEEN, which in French that's Jeben. And the letters stand for Groupe Biblique des Élèves et Étudiants du Niger. So in English, that is Biblical Group of Students and Pupils of Niger. So this is a big organization. The main organization is called IFIS. I'm not sure if you all have ever heard of that, but somebody I was talking to the other day had heard of it, and I was like, yes, I don't have to go through my whole explanation. But it's called International Fellowship of Evangelical Students, and they have these groups in all of the countries. And they even have it here, but I didn't know about it probably because we live in a small town. But they have these groups in all of the different countries. And so what it is it's just a large network of Christian students who start in the program. They meet once a week for Bible study and prayer. They also do different evangelism programs or projects and community service and things like that. And then whenever they graduate, they become a friend of the group, and the friends normally support the group. So it's kind of like a big circle-ish. So my husband is the general secretary, so he's the main leader over all of these groups inside of the whole country. So he has a staff and a board that work with him, and so it's just a big job for him, a big ministry that he feels called to, and so I have been helping him with that as well, because the university students, the different departments meet on different days of the week, and then you have high schools that meet on different days as well. So we also like to invite the college students to our house because they live on the campus, they eat the campus food, and unlike the campuses here, the food there, I heard, is not very good. So we always want to try to give them a place where they can come and hang out and just hang out with each other and have some good food. We just want to provide that for them as well. And then there were some people who were in the same position as Musa, the different leaders in the different countries. They all came to Niger for a training. So here they are at our house having a meal as well. As you can see, we like to eat. And here is another picture of his staff. So most of them are like single people. So I was talking to one of them about what I was thinking about having, and he was like, "Oh, Melanie, don't stress about it," because some of them do speak English. He was like, "Don't stress about it. If you fix beans, that's fine. Just beans, because that's all we eat anyway." Because they're single and they have to make their own food. So anyway, we had way more than beans. And then here's a picture of one of the Bible studies we were having in a middle school. So this middle school is like a private school, so you can see how they have the uniforms there. And so there's a group picture of them on the right, and then the Bible study when they were doing the Bible study. And then in these schools, sometimes not all the kids are Christian. Some of them are Muslim. So they're just coming to learn about the Bible and to study the Bible with this group of other students. So it's also a way to evangelize as well. And then here is a picture of the one of the university departments having their group meeting, studying a passage, having questions, having prayer. And here's another picture. They're having a training on the left, and then on the right we're having a prayer meeting for the group and for the activities. And just here's another group picture of several of the students, and then on the right we are having a picnic where they're just kind of hanging out and doing some different activities. One of the activities that we did during the Week of the Student, which was at the beginning of May, they do the Week of the Student every year, is we swept the cafeteria parking lot. So we had to get up all the trash and stuff like that, and I got a very bad sunburn because I didn't know we were sweeping outside. But people walked by and were like, "What are you doing?" And so the students had an opportunity to tell them, "This is the group that we belong to, we're Christians, and we just want to help out on the campus." And then here's another group picture of some of the students. Also during that week, we were able to visit the prison. The group had never done that before, and it was also a new experience for me. So the men shared with the men about Jesus, the women shared with the women, and then we also shared with the children. So yes, there are children in the prison. They were around probably 14 to 18 years old, and they were all boys. But they were really respectful and wanted to hear what we had to say. So there was hundreds of people that we were able to share with in just that one day. And some of them were already Christians, but it was just good to be able to share.
Amen.
One month we used some of our support money to help buy some water containers for a couple living in the village. So they have to drive, they have to travel to get their water from a certain place and then take it back to their house, and their buckets were getting holes in them and things like that. So we helped to provide, we used some of the money that we got from people here to help provide that for someone there.
Hey.
And then here's just some more random pictures. Some kids at the church on the left, and then some of the students from the student group. And so I've made a lot of friends in the student group, and it's been a really good thing. And then these are the last pictures. My husband's sister and her husband came over. She was teaching me a little bit more about how to make African food. So that was fun. I am okay at making some things, but most of the things, I don't know. I mean, my husband eats it, but whether it's good, I don't know. And then one of our friends on the right from he's one of the students. I made him a cake for his birthday. Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit about how to reach Muslims for Christ. So I kind of said a little bit about how we visit people and how we share with them like over a period of time, because lots of times people who are Muslim have to hear the gospel more than once before they like become a Christian. But sometimes there are people who become Christians like the first time they hear about Jesus. That happens. But lots of times people have to hear and to study for themselves before they actually switch to Christianity. But the first and probably most important thing to do is to pray. And so I know that you all are praying people, so you know how important prayer is. So praying for people is so important. So you always want to pray for them. And then building relationships with them, helping them to know that you're not there just to put a check mark for like a number of this is the amount of people that, on a report or something. But just like building relationships with them, repeated evangelism, like I said before, and talking to them about what Jesus did for them. Because their whole religion is based on them trying to get to heaven on their own. They are trying to earn favor with God by giving to the poor, by saying assalamu alaikum whenever they come inside of a room, because that's like the greeting that Muhammad told them to say. And so it's just praying 5 times a day, doing the annual feast, going to the mosque. All of these things can add up and give them credit with God. But they still don't know if they're going to heaven, because they believe after they die, their good and bad things will be weighed. And then if the good things outweigh the bad things, they'll go to heaven. If the bad things outweigh the good things, they'll go to hell. So praise God, we do not have to worry about that. So they need to hear what Jesus did for them, how Jesus took their place, how Jesus took our place. And that is why we do not have to worry our whole lives about what's going to happen to us in eternity. And so they need to hear about that. They need to hear about the Holy Spirit and how it is our assurance of salvation. So just focusing on Jesus. And there are Bibles in there are different languages available, which is really good. And so we also try to invite people to church for different events, like the Jesus film, or those events like at Christmas or at Easter. Okay. So I also wanted to share with you a little bit about the language that I've been learning, just so you all can feel a little bit of my pain. So I have English here, Zarma, which is the tribal language that I'm learning, and then French. So just a short little language lesson with you. If you want to say hello in Zarma, you would say fofo. So if you see someone, fofo. Good. So that is how you would greet someone. Greetings are really important in African culture. So you can't just walk up to someone and be like, hey, are you going to Walmart today? There's no Walmart there. But you can't just do that. You have to say fofo, and then you have to greet them like, how are you? How is your health? How is your family? How is your children? All of that before you get to your question you wanted to ask them or your reason for talking to them. And you may not even have a reason to talk to them. But anyway, you can say fofo and then matarango, which is how are you? So you would say matarango, and then you would answer, I'm fine, bani same. If you're not fine, you still answer bani same. So that's just how it is. You just answer, I'm fine. And so you have all of those greetings before, like mate daham, how is your health? Mate fu, how is your house? Mate zanke, how is your children? You have to do all that, and sometimes you're talking at the same time just so you can get all of it in. So that sometimes I'm like waiting for a space to say what I want to say, but then they're like, say the whole thing. So that's fun. And then so in French is a lot more difficult, I think, than Zarma, because you have verb conjugations. The words are not pronounced any way that you would think they would be pronounced. So in French you have, I don't know if any of you all speak French, but hello is salut. How are you is comment tu vas? How are you? Comment tu vas? And then you can answer je vais bien. I'm fine. Je vais bien. Which is here. And then if you want to say Jesus loves you in Zarma, you can say Yesu, who's Jesus, Yesu. Gabani, Jesus loves you. Yesu Gabani. And then in French, it's Jésus t'aime. And then for see you later, my sister was really good at this one. Kala tonton. She could say fofo really good. She could say ça va, which is how are you, but a shortened version in French. And then she could say kala tonton, which is see you later in Zarma. And then in French, it is au revoir, what is goodbye. So that's just a little bit about what I'm learning there. Some people ask me, like, what is your most difficult part of living there? Because I've been there several times, the climate wasn't too hard for me, but the language is hard for me. Just because it's frustrating when people are speaking around you and you have no idea what they're saying. So that may just be like a personal issue that I have, but or maybe I'm just nosy or something. But it's hard. But I am learning more now, and at least I can understand the topic of their conversation. So I wanted to share a little bit about what our future projects are to kind of close. We are saving to buy our house because right now we're paying rent. So we feel like if we can try to save and buy that house, then we can use that money for something else and not just like using it for rent every month. Even though lots and lots of people there do rent homes because they don't have the funds available to buy a house or to build a house. And then Musa is currently working on planting a garden that's kind of near our house, and we hope to sell those vegetables to make money that way, but to also be a ministry, because like we can sell the vegetables for cheaper and try to help people out that way as well. And then another thing, like I was saying, the kids are, I really have a heart for the kids. Whenever I'm able to be more fluent in Dharma, I want to have a kids club at our house, which would kind of be a once a month Bible school. So the kids would come and they would learn a Bible story in their language. They would have a craft and then they would eat. So I've done that in the past with some missionaries. So I really would like to do that because I feel like children are really impressionable and they need to learn about Jesus when they're young, so that when they're older, when they're more mature and they can kind of make the decision between doing exactly what their dad is doing, praying outside, because I do see like little boys praying right beside their dad. So they can make the decision between doing that or following Jesus. So it's really important to try to share that with the children. And then also our future projects with the Jeben Christian student groups. So lastly, people sometimes ask me, like, what do you need? What can we do for you? Well, I made a little list of how you can partner with us. So first is to pray. So praying is so important, as you all know. You can pray for us. You can pray for our neighborhood, for the Muslims there who live, the people in Niger who are lost. You can pray for the Christians in Niger. Sometimes they do face persecution because if their whole family is Muslim and then they become a Christian, then oftentimes their family might make them leave, or they might disown them, or then they don't have food, they don't have shelter, they don't have anyone, and then it's like it probably broke their heart, right? Because their family turned away from them, and so they need our prayers too. And then you can also pray for the Jeben group as well, the Christian students. And then you can give financially to our projects, or you can send items. And lastly, you can go. You can come and visit us. We would love to have visitors. I don't recommend visiting in May, but we would love to have visitors who can put you to work, introduce you to all of our friends, and so that was all I wanted to share, and I wanted to give you all an opportunity to ask any questions that you would like to ask.
Is there much opposition against what you guys are doing?
Not right now. Mostly in Niger, you can be a Christian without, your family might persecute you, but the government recognizes Christianity. So my husband knows the laws really well, and so the country doesn't have like a specific religion, even though there's a statement at the president's house that's like, Allah is our God and Muhammad is our prophet, so that kind of goes against the government. But anyway, there's not a lot of opposition to Christians like sharing. Sometimes people will tell you like they don't want to listen to you, and you just go on and move to the next maybe group of people, or you just, like when we're evangelizing, we'll just walk on until someone wants to hear about Jesus. And so, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're in that area, because I know some places over there from what I read and hear about some Christian persecuted.
Yes. Yeah. Thankfully, there is some peace in Niger. There are like people who are terrorists who have like kind of control over some cities, but they haven't really been persecuting Christians specifically. They are, they kind of like make deals with the people who live there, like, I'll let you live here if you give me your food. Like not all of your food, but like a portion of your crops so that, they can live. So kind of like a tithe to the terrorists, or else they make them leave. They don't really like kill them, they just tell them to leave. Yes?
What kind of vehicles do you have?
Well, the Lord provided us with a RAV4. That's our personal vehicle. But some missionaries who are leaving who have developed a really good relationship with my husband, kind of like their second son, they gave us their car. So we were really thankful for that. But in general, there's most of the cars I would say are Toyotas. But I would say the majority of people drive motorcycles. So they're kind of like smaller motorcycles, not like the big ones that you see here. And then lots of people use taxis. There's tons of taxis. My husband told me there's probably 10,000 taxis in the city. So people use that, people walk. Lots of people don't have the funds to have a car, but motorcycles are cheaper.
How about the education?
Education?
Is
It kind of
Muslim-based
depends. What?
Is it Muslim based or?
There are Christian schools, yeah, which I thought was very interesting. There are some private Christian schools. There are some schools that are like operated by French people or operated by Turkish people, because on the name of the school it will say French or Turkish and then have the name. And so it kind of depends on where you are. I would say the private schools do have a little bit better education. The schools in the city have better education than the schools in the villages. And lots of people will travel to the bigger cities just to go to school and live with relatives.
I was wondering if you're familiar with the persecution of the Nigerians from the Fulani herd.
Yeah, the Fulani people are a little bit more hostile. And even the village where one of my husband's sisters and her husband live in a village outside of the city, ministering to the Fulani people. And they know very well that they could like come and like persecute them or kill them or something like that, which hasn't happened in that area in a while. But all along the border of Niger and Nigeria, there are terrorist groups. And so I've always thought like they just kill Christians whenever they want to. But my husband told, one good thing about being married to someone from there is you get more correct information. And so he said that he's never heard of a terrorist just killing a Christian because they're a Christian. So, but there is like those terrorist groups, lots of times they are from the Fulani people or from the Tamashek people. But I don't know like a whole lot about it. Yes.
Y'all have any sports over there?
Yeah, their soccer team was on TV. We watched it. So yeah, they play soccer a lot. They call it football. And I haven't really seen very many people playing like basketball or anything like that. I think the most I've seen is just people playing soccer. Because lots of times in the afternoons, kids will be out in the neighborhood, like a whole bunch of kids that just live at different houses will come together and just have like a soccer game. So they play a lot of soccer. Yes.
What about your healthcare over there?
I've had a lot of experience with the healthcare just because my mother-in-law had a stroke, and so we were taking her to the doctor. And so there are good places, there are better places, and then there are places that really need help. And I'm not one to complain about underdeveloped countries, but just because I've had a lot of experience, I feel that the government should use their money differently. Because you can see where they put a lot of money, and then you can see where there's not so much money. And so the hospitals are not stocked with things that they need, like gloves, for example. And it's just kind of sad too, because if you don't have money, you can't go to the doctor. Maybe you might go to a witch doctor and get natural medicine. And then some people I've heard like they just died from that. And so, but if you don't have any other option, then you just go with what you can do because you're kind of desperate. So there's lots of pharmacies where people can get medicine because malaria is a huge thing there. where you can go to the pharmacy and just get the malaria medicine without really having a prescription. But then people in the villages who don't have access to all these pharmacies, if they get malaria, oftentimes they will die. So the malaria death rate is so high in Africa just because of lack of medicine, I think, or lack of the funds to buy the medicine. So if any of you all are doctors or nurses and would want to come to Niger, I'm sure it would be great.
Ma'am, what kind of judicial system do you have, like?
That would be a great question for my husband. I'm not really. They have like judges and they have courts and then they have like punishment for certain crimes and things like that. And then they elect the president. Whether the election is fair or not, I don't know. But it's kind of similar to here. I don't know about I don't think they have the 3 branches of government. But, you know, they do have like a judicial system. There's lots of police officers who are normally directing traffic because traffic is kind of horrible. But kind of like that. What was your other question?
So I was just gonna ask, so nurses and doctors, is there a big shortage of that over there?
Not really. It seems like there's a lot of students who are studying to be doctors, but I feel like they don't have, I don't know about their education because I've never experienced it, but I really don't feel like they have the equipment that they need, like the best equipment that they would need in order to do all of that. Yes. Yes. Not recently. I would love to ride a camel. Actually, that would be like the best birthday gift ever. But second to that, side story. My husband, for my birthday, bought me this giant wooden camel that I could sit on. So I think he was trying to like tell me like, this is what you get. There's not gonna be a real camel, but you can sit on this wooden camel that's in our living room. So, but yeah, I rode one when I was living there in 2014. So it was fun. And the locals provide that for tourists. Camel rides, but I haven't ridden one recently.
Debo in that area, in his foundation.
Not that, what's it called, do you know?
I can't remember off the top of my head, just know his name.
Yeah, not that.
He's over there for wells and things like that.
Mhm. There are lots of organizations who build wells and do aid for Niger, but I haven't heard of his specifically. But I don't know all of them because it's a big city. What?
He said something about Bibles.
Bibles. Yeah, they have lots of Bibles. There's one man who goes to our church, works at the Biblical Society. So they have Bibles. He travels with these Bibles to cities along like the border of Niger, which is where most of the people live, and takes the Bibles there in those languages. We normally have New Testaments in our car. So if we are driving through somewhere and usually there's like an army person that will like let you in and out of places like the hospital, then my husband will be like, here's the New Testament for you. And so people love gifts. So they gladly take it, and whether they read it, I don't know. But we have the Bibles available, and that Biblical Society is a really great place. I'm not sure where they get their funds. They might get some funds from America, but they print really nice Bibles, and we're able to give those out as well. Other questions?
That makes mosquitoes.
They're small because sometimes I can feel them biting me and I don't see them. I'm like, you're black. I should be able to see you, but then they fly away before I can kill them. But yeah, the mosquitoes are not fun. They are most prevalent in the rainy season, and they cause a lot of malaria. So still unsure why God created mosquitoes, because they're a problem. Yes. Yes, they do have dogs. They're not as, they're not really like the little ones that you might find here. They all kind of look the same. Not exactly the same, but they're kind of like the bigger dogs. Some people use dogs for protection, to keep people from stealing things at their house. But I've also seen cats, maybe birds, not sure. Yeah.
So what about transportation? I mean, is there like, do you all have like cabs over there, or does people like walk a lot of places if they go, or?
Yes, people walk a lot, but there are lots of taxis. And there's also something called a Faba Faba, which is a taxi van. And so I was taking the Faba Faba with Mariam to the market, but one day I felt I was praying. I'm pretty sure Mariam was praying too, that we like survived the ride because we were no longer on the road. And so after that, my husband was like, I think you should take the taxi. So, but yeah, there's Faba Faba vans, and then even there's motorcycle taxis, but they're kind of more like in the middle of the city, I think.
Do you have any animals or kids of your own?
I don't have any children, and we don't have any animals other than the lizards that live in our yard. But, yeah, he's mentioned like about getting a dog for maybe protection, but I'm sorry, but we don't really like dogs. All the people who like dogs, I'm sorry. I do like dogs, they're very cute, but I just don't want a dog myself. I just didn't grow up with animals, so I just don't really know what it's like. The only pet I would like to have is camel, but we all know that story. But lots of people have pets. You had a question? Oh, you did? I was kind of wondering like what people would do like if they wanted to bring a lizard over here. Actually, I asked my husband, I was like, what if somebody put a lizard in their suitcase to bring over here? And he was like, why would anyone do that? And I was like, I don't know.
Man, does it take you a long time to adjust to that? I know it's hot over there. Does it take you a long time to adjust to that?
I'm kind of a more hot-natured person, so it wasn't really difficult for me. I know that a lot of people who aren't would really struggle there, I think, unless they were there like in December or in January. But when I struggled the most was in May, whenever it would get really hot during the day, and then at night it didn't really cool down much. So it's like your whole bed is soaked with sweat. That was a struggle for me, but that's only 1 month out of 12. The rest of the time it was okay.
You get torrential rains when you get over?
Yes. When it rains, sometimes it rains a lot. Or they'll have like a big, huge dust storm right before the rain. So you have to run around and close all of your windows, or else you have everything covered in dust. And it's like lots and lots of dust. I don't know how to describe it, but like our whole porch will be covered in like this much dust. So thankfully it's not like wet or anything, you kind of sweep it out, but the dust storms too.
Are there more Christian churches there than just yours?
Yeah, there are several Christian churches. We got married in the biggest church there. It's an Assemblies of God church. There's several Assemblies of God churches there. There's a big Baptist church. I'm not sure if they're using it right now or if it's open. I know they just built it recently. So there are several churches. Not as many as the mosques, but there are several churches.
That's heartening to know that Christianity is making some inroads there. I mean, that's encouraging to me. Because from what I read and understand, that people that are Muslims are really hard. Kinda like Jehovah's Witness and people like that, you know, to get them to change, you know, they're indoctrinated so badly. But it's amazing, we ought to be indoctrinated so badly that we wouldn't take nothing other than Jesus, you know, so.
Yeah, it is encouraging because sometimes when you're driving through the city and you just see all of the lostness, all of the just poverty, these little boys carrying around these little bowls begging, and they do that every single day and they have to find their own food. It's just sad. Like sometimes it just makes me cry, but then it's encouraging also to know that there is, like, I'm not the only Christian there. Like, we're not the only Christians there. There are other Christians who are also trying to help people to come to know Jesus as well. Yes. Any what? Fans? Yes. There's a fan in every room. Sometimes two. Any other questions?
So you all have like air conditioner units or like electricity, air, or is it just fans that you use?
We have 2 air conditioning units and they just cool the one room that they're in. So it's not like central heat and air. So you have, if you want to have the air, then you put it normally like in your bedroom or in the living room where people would come and visit you. Or if you have a lot of money, you have one in every room. All right. Well, thank you all so much for allowing me to come and to just share about all the things that God is doing through us in Niger. We appreciate all of your prayers and all of your support, and thank you just for praying for the people there, because they really need our prayers and they really need to hear the gospel and allow it to change their lives. And so we're thankful that God is using us there, and we're thankful for people like you who are supporting us here. So, thank you.